Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome into another Panel B podcast.
Hey.
That's right. Don't adjust your screen, your AirPods, however you're consuming this. It is Panel B on Monday. The suits have granted us the ability to broadcast twice a week now.
Yowie wowie.
Our takes are too hot for just one 30-minute segment on Wednesdays, so we'll be here Mondays and Wednesdays through the NFL season. Allows us to recap, call out these two guys when they're wrong.
Hello.
On Wednesdays. These two guys being Julian Edlow, Steve Buchanan. Have some fun new segments as well, so stick around. Obviously, though, this being a Monday immediately after an NFL slate, we have to talk about the NFL slate. What stood out to you guys? I mean, well, I'm going to override that because we really have to talk about Drew Brees, the news that came out. Likely to miss at least 6 weeks with a torn ligament in his thumb. We'll see if it's longer. They have Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater, though, did not look good on Sunday. So Saints done for the year?
So he's the highest paid backup quarterback in the league. Time to show it, baby. Let's see what you're made of. But, yeah, he looked bad. I thought Joe Flacco threw some wobbly passes. Teddy Bridgewater blew that out of the water. He looked terrible. And granted, he probably hasn't thrown a meaningful pass since, 2015. So give
when
him
he
a
made the
week.
Pro Bowl.
Oh, that's true. But
So?
meaningful, it's up for debate. But, yeah, it's going to be a rough stretch for the Saints. I feel like they're going to have to really rely on Alvin Kamara a lot more than they did in that game. Total bust in DFS purposes, 7 DraftKings fantasy points overall, which is very disappointing in what was expected to be a shootout. But yeah, this is a massive downgrade for Michael Thomas, Ted Ginn, all the receivers there. It's gonna be a tough stretch there unless Bridgewater can figure it out.
Not out of the division, though, right? Because who else is going to win it?
No, and that's one of the things I was going to touch on. I was looking it up on DK Sportsbook, and as of now, that is the only division that is not being offered odds, which makes sense. Although Roethlisberger's status is up in the air. I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit next, but that division is open. So obviously they're putting more, stock in the gap between Brees and Bridgewater than the potential gap between Roethlisberger and Mason Rudolph.
Yep.
But like you said, there's a reason the Saints have, well, not really. Brees has been very healthy, but there's a comfort that the Saints have in having what they would call the best backup quarterback in the NFL. And I'm willing to write off the first one. It's a tough spot to come in on the road against the Rams and be thrusted into that situation versus getting a full week of reps with the first team preparing for that Seattle defense that's been shaky to start the year for week 3. So Bridgewater's a guy, again, because we have 2 quarterbacks that are hurt, I think the Steelers situation, Mason Rudolph, might be a little bit better situation, and he's 4,800 on the Week 3 slate. Teddy Bridgewater's 4,700 on the Week 3 slate, and also not in a terrible spot. But I think we'd be talking much more about Teddy Bridgewater this week if we didn't also have the Roethlisberger situation, because now we have 2 backup quarterbacks in high-profile offenses with legit targets in Juju and Michael Thomas, that are going to be on the fantasy radar in week 3. And I'm very curious, though, to see when DK Sportsbook does open up the NFC South, what that's going to look like. Because it's 6 weeks for Brees. How healthy is he going to be when he gets back? Is it actually going to be 8 weeks? Is Bridgewater going to be good? Like, the Falcons are probably going to be plus money, or the second team in there at pretty solid plus money. It's going to be an interesting situation to look at.
Yeah, and I think this will be one of those situations where he'll have the surgery, he'll have the mandatory time off, but then the Saints will kind of see where things are, right, in terms of, how much do you want to push him back. Obviously, the standings are going to play a big role in that, and hopefully we will have odds soon on the NFC South. But let's transition, though, to that other quarterback injury. Ben Roethlisberger, we're still waiting to see what kind of timeline here, if he's going to require surgery or not on that elbow injury. If he goes the route of not having surgery, you can think Josh Allen had a somewhat similar injury last year. He missed 4 weeks. Surgery would likely be season ending.
Yes.
And you're talking about a team now that's in a division with, I would say, a clear-cut favorite, which the NFC South wasn't, but now in the AFC North, you do have the Baltimore Ravens out to a 2-0 start, maybe not playing really 2 tough opponents, but from what you've seen there, how do you gauge, Bukes, the Steelers' chances here now in this division.
I mean, if Rudolph plays like he did yesterday, they should be okay. I mean, if anything, that offense seemed to be running better, doing, more on the field with Rudolph under center than
his
Roethlisberger.
one half was the best offensive half the Steelers have had in 2 games.
Oh, by far. I mean, he was efficient.
Maybe why Roethlisberger was so mad when they drafted him and did not want to help him play.
I mean, we don't want to, look into preseason stats too much, but like he was great in the preseason, so it's not like he doesn't have the capabilities. But I mean, the Steelers looked dead in the water in the first half. Like there was no chance that they were going to beat the Seahawks with the way that Roethlisberger was throwing. It was very, very obvious that something was wrong. Like there was one shot of him where after a pass attempt, I think it was to Juju, he was just like almost violently shaking his elbow, like trying to like get whatever it is out of there. But I feel a lot better with Rudolph at this point than Roethlisberger because even though he wasn't bad, completion-wise, just wasn't getting it done on the field.
I'm with you there. I think Rudolph is better than Roethlisberger at this stage, at least an injured Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
And it was it looked like a non-contact elbow injury, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, that's not good. He was just throwing the ball, holding his elbow. Whether it's surgery or not, if he tries to not have surgery and it's kind of like a 50-50 thing, and then come back in a month and play through it, it's not going to look good. It's not going to go well for him. He's an old guy that hasn't been in the greatest shape for the majority of his career. This is looking good for Mason Rudolph, who right now at 4,800 going out to San Francisco, I think is definitely the better backup quarterback this week between Bridgewater.
And here we go.
Yep.
Ian
Breaking news
Rappaport,
like we always do.
Ben
on Panel B.
Roethlisberger will need surgery, is out for the season.
Okay.
Boom.
So I honestly.
So here we go. Here's the question. Right now, Steelers plus 230, third best odds to win the division.
Yep.
Did Rudolph show you enough? You have Ravens plus 125, Browns plus 200, Steelers plus 230.
I still think the Ravens win that division. I mean, granted, we've only seen a half of Rudolph, so can we put that much stock on it to put, the money in on the Steelers winning the division? I don't think so as of yet. Obviously, as time goes on, the odds are going to get worse or better depending on how he does. But at this juncture, I don't see the Ravens falling far enough that they don't end up winning this division. Like, the Ravens look like the real deal. Lamar Jackson is, passing with precision, which was not in his... that wasn't the type of quarterback that he was, but he's getting it done right now. When Mark Andrews is the highest scoring tight end on the slate, that says something about the quarterback. So I just think the Ravens are still the favorites here, but for the odds that you're getting at the Steelers at this moment, it's not terrible.
Well, I'll wait and see because they might even get better odds.
Sure.
I think obviously the general consensus will be, hey, the Steelers are worse off without Ben Roethlisberger. Ravens, the Browns will see what they do tonight, but even still, Ravens Steelers historically are always going to be close games anyways. So, maybe if you a coin flip, you take that side, and we'll have to see. But talking a little bit about the Ravens because. Yeah, I mean, it's just another dimension now that teams have to think about, and that's why you see guys like Mark Andrews so wide open because teams are going to respect the run first, as well they should. But if Jackson can even just, complete 65% of his passes, like that offense will be very tough to stop.
So here's the thing with Baltimore. I understand why they're plus 125 right now, and they should be favored in that division. But they've played a couple of pretty easy games at home. Yep. Next week, they're going to be going to Kansas City. So we'll see what they're really made of in week 3. Offensively, that should obviously go well for them against that Kansas City defense and having to keep up with that Kansas City offense. But I think we'll get a better gauge for what Baltimore is in that game. And it's tough to write off the Browns at plus 200 because we only saw them play once and they laid an egg, so that's what's on everybody's mind. I'm under the impression or of the belief that they're going to come out in this Monday night football game, and not just because the Jets are a little bit of a mess, but because they want to prove that week 1 was a fluke on the national stage in New York, come out and look really good in this game. And then the belief of this division might completely shift because we're also expecting the Ravens to lose. I think they're touchdown underdogs in Kansas City, so we're projecting the Ravens to lose, and then maybe it's a different story at the top of this division. And just really quick on the Steelers, I think that Rudolph helps them. I don't think it should change their division odds at all. I don't want to bet them in the division because they're already 0-2, and maybe it takes Rudolph a little bit of time to get going. So I just think they're in too much of a hole. But overall for Pittsburgh, I mean, that could have been the last snap of Roethlisberger's career if Rudolph progresses well this season. He's a guy that's already been talking about retirement. He could be done, and this could be Mason Rudolph's offense going forward.
He's 37.
Yeah.
Roethlisberger. I didn't realize he was that old. I knew he was getting up there.
I'll say right now, I think he's done. I think he's going to retire after this. Mason Rudolph's going to be the quarterback of the Steelers.
As is Adam Vinatieri, says the rumors an innuendo that he might be retiring today.
He's missing kicks.
He's brutal.
There's also the rumors that that's another Belichick inside job because Stephen Gostkowski also missing kicks. You can cost yourself 5 points against the Dolphins. You can't do that against the Chiefs and any of the other powerhouse teams.
Stop it.
And then Adam Vinatieri comes back to New England.
But it's not happening.
Just like he pulled Antonio Brown from Oakland, right?
That I kind of believe a little bit, but not Vinatieri. Not happening. Sorry.
Janko's just staring me down right now.
Hey, man, anytime you have a chance to get the 40-year-old kicker, who is right now kicking in a dome and go kick in the elements in New England. What else, though, stood out to you guys this past weekend? Turns out 19 points, not enough to give the Dolphins against the Patriots. Not even close to enough.
It looked good for a little while. I think it was like
their defense. At halftime.
Well, it looked good until you realized they had like 20 yards of offense.
But just how pathetic is the quarterback duo of Fitzpatrick and Rosen? Like, Rosen had a couple of good throws once he came in, but just like in Arizona, he has nobody in front of him to protect him. Like, he's going to get killed before he reaches
the receivers might be worse, though. Like, the Dolphins lack the ability to, like, run and catch and throw and tackle. Like,
seems important.
Things such as this in football. Kenyon Drake was targeted in the passing game. He like ducked out of the way of a pass that was right at him.
Right.
One of the pick sixes was a Dolphins catch that just bobbled around like five times and then boop right into the hands of the Patriots. Defensive touchdown. Like, it was just so bad.
So do
now we have Miami opening as 21-point underdogs in Dallas. And guess what? I kind of like the Cowboys.
That's crazy.
Hey, I mentioned on Twitter, man, Tony Pollard, this is where it all comes full circle. He's
you
going to get a ton
might
of
be
run.
right.
I don't feel comfortable paying up for Zeke because
he
might
just
play a half. 10 carries, 95 yards, and get him out of there. Who knows?
Is it a must, the defense playing the Dolphins?
So it's $4,300.
Right.
I wouldn't call it a must only because of the price tag, but I will definitely have
the
some
price
exposure.
tag with defenses is always so clustered anyways. Like,
I'm not saying I wouldn't play him.
Like, obviously, once a defense gets over like a certain threshold, it's so hard to justify paying up for them. But then when you see what the Patriots did yesterday, it was 37 points for a while. They were the highest scoring, player or whatever you want to call it on the slate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get it that often that a defense is going to score that many points, and it's just at the point now where it's like, where are they going to score? Like, who's going to lead them down the field? Rosen? No.
So that's the big thing, I think, their ability to score, and I think the best way from a gambling or DFS angle to target directly at that is team totals, because that's exactly what that is. So, yesterday I liked the Miami team total under 14.5 points a lot. They laid a goose egg. Right now, we don't know what that team total is going to be. The spread we know is 21 on DK Sportsbook. We don't have a total open, so we can't do the math and figure out what the implied team total would be there. At this point, I'm thinking 9.5.
I was going to say, it's going to be a spread of 21.5 with an over-under of like 37.
Seriously.
It's so true, though. It really is.
Like, it can't be. So it was just 14.5. They scored 0. They've scored 10 points on the season in 2 games.
Yep.
I think the fair number here on the road in Dallas, it's either going to be 10.5 or 9.5.
Mm-hmm. Well, we mentioned
that's going to be tough.
Both appealing.
Both appeal to me.
And we'll have more info there on Wednesday for our show, so definitely tune back in and get our takes there. And we mentioned that, though, like the large spread with the small over-under, and which had us wary about the Jaguars, right?
Exactly.
Wary about the Texans at minus 8.5. And that both the under and the Jaguars there turned out to work pretty well. I do want to give props here. Props where props are due to one Steve Buchanan. Because when we talked about Sammy Watkins, you mentioned, hey, this is what we've seen before. And, I'm not going to totally flip here, but our thoughts were, look, he's he's now the alpha dog in this offense. No, the alpha dog is Patrick Mahomes. Anyone who has hands and feet can work here.
Exactly.
Is that all you can take away then? Is it tough then to decide who you're going to go to week, or is it more you have to just have exposure to everybody?
Well, to be fair, Watkins got 13 targets, so it's not like he didn't try to get the ball to him. It's just...
All right, fine.
But
trying to help you out here.
No. But hold on.
Credit rescinded.
But that's just what Sammy Watkins does. Like, every time he has one of those big blow-up games, everybody starts to get excited for him, and then he posts one of these 10.9 DraftKings fantasy point duds. And instead, it was Demarcus Robinson who went off, got all 6 of his targets for 172 yards. What the hell? And 2 touchdowns. Like, but yeah, to your credit, like...
So back on Watkins in week 3 is what you're saying.
6,800 against Baltimore, and he'll get such low ownership because everybody's going to be on those 2 cheap receivers and Kelsey that he's not a terrible GPP player.
One of the biggest knocks on Watkins for this week was he got like a 2,700 salary boost for this week. Like, that's just insane. Like, nobody gets that type of boost. Like, I couldn't even think of another example where somebody got such a large boost on a week-to-week basis. But
it was like James
almost
Conner
the Cowboys
last
defense.
Year. Maybe the Cowboys defense. James Conner was like severely underpriced week 1 last year, and then had the workhorse role, and then went up.
And
huge.
Eckler went.
Eckler had a
Well, no, that's true. He was 55. He went to 61. Never mind. He's still underpriced.
But I almost kind of think of like the Chiefs receivers as like the Eagles running backs from last year. Like, you could never figure out who was going to be the guy on a week-to-week basis. Almost like I almost feel like you're better off just playing Mahomes naked, because you're still going to get the production there, but you're not tying down yourself to that one receiver. So you either have to play Mahomes naked or stack him with like 2 or maybe even 3 receivers if you want to eat up everything. Like, there's no in between at this point.
Mahomes naked, or if you're going to be a multiple lineup guy, you do him with these 2 receivers, these 2 receivers, these 2 receivers, so that you cover every combination, throw some Kelsey in there, and then you're covered.
And all of a sudden, all the running backs are banged up now, too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you're really talking about Mahomes naked accounts for all the touchdowns, more or less, is a good way to approach that. What else stood out to you guys? I mean, obviously, for me, I watched Bills Giants. I watched Saquon take 4 straight carries in the first drive, easily knife through 55 yards and a touchdown. And then they started throwing the ball.
Awesome.
And then all of a sudden that kind of fell off a cliff. I mean, this Giants offense, that's what we were worried about with Saquon Barkley when you talked about him being a number 1 overall pick, is that every team knows he's going to be the only one who can hurt you. Evan Ingram didn't show up.
No.
So what's his viability maybe week to week?
It's just until they make a quarterback change, it's impossible to like any of these guys. Like Ingram, with the way that it was set up, should have been in a smash spot because it was just him and Saquon to throw to, and he ended up disappearing. And Saquon had a nice start, but from the start that he had, it didn't finish out that well. So it's just, they know they have to make a change. They're still not going to make a change, and just keep staying away from the Giants. Although Golden Tate is coming back next week, I think, or the week after. 4-game suspension, so week 5.
I mean, in fairness to Saquon, he's still scored over 20 DK points in both games and is averaging 23.2. So he's solid, but let's just say his ceiling is limited for a $9,000 play, I guess.
But he started off with 12 in the first 5 minutes of the game. So overall, I would say it was a not that productive of a game. Figure was at least how we started.
I agree.
Thank you. I'm glad we agree on that. This is not a good podcast if we're agreeing, though. I'll tell you that.
I'm sure we'll find something to disagree on later.
Real quick, one thing I did want to pick out. You want to talk about streaming defenses against Houston every day. Holy crap, they cannot defend. They cannot protect Watson.
You know you're going to get points on sacks.
Huh?
You know you're going to get points on sacks.
Oh, for sure.
Regardless
I think
of what Houston scores.
He's been sacked already 8 times for the first 2 weeks. Like, it's bad. I'd be surprised if he makes it through the season with the amount of hits he's taken. He's getting absolutely wrecked back there.
Real quick, you know who leads the league in passing yards?
Oh, let's hear it.
Do you know? I know. I just
offhand, no.
Dak?
The Ginger Rifle, Andy Dalton.
Oh. Razor Andy.
All right.
He's been
fair enough.
He's been sharp.
John Ross, back-to-back.
Yeah.
He's showing up. Dude's fast.
Games.
We knew that, but
he's fast.
Well, now they're using him. No more Marvin Lewis.
Right. Right.
And real quick, just touching on Steve's point about Houston. Houston on the road at the Chargers. Chargers defense, 2,500.
What?
So if you're not going to pay $4,300 for Dallas, you can save yourself almost $2,000 going down there.
Pretty good matchups, too, for at least on the Chargers side.
All right, before we move on, any other storylines that caught your eye? Anything else you want to pat your back on for getting right on Sunday, or man up and mention that you got wrong?
T.J. Hawkinson was an absolute disaster.
Yep.
I think he was one of the more chalky plays of the week. I was definitely on board with that, and I think this kind of goes back to the narrative that, rookie tight ends really make a big difference in year one. I think we got a little overexcited with his first week performance because he caught one of his 3 targets yesterday. So he ended up going up $500 for this slate. Well, I don't know why.
Yeah, that was kind of...
So that
kind
of
one
weird,
reaction leading into week 3.
Yeah, but reeling in a little bit on.
That's
on
when you play him then.
Maybe.
Yeah. But I think reeled in a little bit on him, and that was definitely something that I fell for.
For me, if you read any of my cash game articles,
no.
I paid all the way up for Hopkins, Juju, and Kamara, which was
Brutal.
my big 3, almost half my salary, and they could not get me 30 DK points combined. So not a good week in cash because of those guys. Everything else worked out great. That was unfortunate. And then the Steelers play. One of my favorite spots of the week was the Steelers minus 3.5. And I'll say that was a little bit fluky because
you can't,
a quarterback
don't take a hard loss for that
played
one.
hurt, then they have to change, and Connor also gets injured. And they only lose by 2. That was an unfortunate situation, kind of weird. But everything else, all the other major plays worked out.
There's definitely bad beats, but that's not one you can't fault on.
It wasn't even like a bad beat. It was just a weird game script.
Yep.
All right, sounds good. And we mentioned too the Bears. It was kind of interesting that where they stood going into that one as dogs.
I like Denver a lot in that one.
All right.
And should have won if the refs did not call that Bradley Chubb roughing the passer.
Did they just miss covering? Was it minus 2.5 for the
Denver
Bears?
Covered for some people. It was 3, 2.5, closed at 2, so it pushed.
Okay.
Going into that game, Denver had won 13 straight September games at Mile High, just because it's a hard place to play in September, I think, for other teams. So I was an advocate of the money line. Hopefully you didn't listen to me and took the spread and won or pushed.
There you go. All right, before we get to Monday night, new segment, Siren.
We don't have one of those.
Yeah, that was a miss on our
Great
part.
thing about not being live is we can always add it in.
I'm sure there will be one.
I find a good sound.
So yeah, one thing we're going to be doing here on the show, Mondays and Wednesdays, all-time stacks. So we're going to list out, we're going to randomize teams. Every team in the MLB, NFL, and NBA. Didn't do NHL because you do not want to hear these two guys talk hockey. Every Monday we're going to take a team, break down the all-time stack if you were taking every single player in that team's history, maybe even not a player if you really want to make a case. And then on Wednesdays, we'll have a little more fun, just fun stacks. We are talking about, favorite sports video games, favorite...
down for that.
Yeah, dad jokes.
Favorite Adam Kaufman tweets.
Our stacks of Adam Kaufman tweets. Whatever the case might be. If you have ideas for that, leave them in the comments, please, because we're going to need some help coming up with some ideas. But like I said, on Mondays, we are going to do teams, and we put all 92 or 93 teams from those 3 sport professional leagues in a randomizer. Number 1, the Chicago Bulls. So we're going to talk all-time stacks for Chicago Bulls. For NBA teams, the way we're going to do it is top guard, top forward, top center, and then a flex, however you want to use them. Up to you if you want this to be a cash game stack or a GPP stack. Julian, we'll start with you. Who is on your Chicago Bulls all-time stack?
All right, well, I'm a cash player, so I'm stacking for cash here, which obviously means I'm starting with MJ, and I think we're all going to have Michael Jordan here, unless one of you tries to get fancy.
Ownership.
I know that you were going to do this.
Worried about the ownership
and fade Jordan for ownership concerns. But yeah, I don't need to spend too much time here. Greatest player of all time, greatest scorer of all time, underrated defender, rebounds, passes, block shots, gets steals.
And I think a guy here who we would say would slot in as like an SGSF, so probably multi-positional.
That's
here.
true. That's true, I guess. I didn't think of it that way, but would have been really fun to see Jordan on a DraftKings slate. Number 2 is another obvious one, Scottie Pippen, another one of the greatest players of all time. A kind of LeBron light before LeBron's time. just so versatile. Could do, as Jordan could, put up numbers in every statistical category, get you a triple-double. Yeah, don't need to spend too much time on him. Here's where it gets interesting for everybody's next two, really. So I considered guys like Dennis Rodman at center, if he would be a power forward center, maybe to slot in there, get all those rebounds. I considered a name like Joakim Noah here, a guy with that 10-10-10 triple-double potential, never does too much for you, but can get there. In the end, I went with retro with Artis Gilmore, who I think was the best Bulls center during his Bulls time. I took this very, very straightforward. I didn't have too much fun with this one because we're gonna have fun on Wednesdays. But during his time with the Bulls, this is like a 25-15 guy. And I thought that he was a little bit off the radar because of some of the newer names at center, so maybe that lowers ownership, and you get a really good play. And then in flex, I know he's banged up now, but you can't forget about MVP Derrick Rose.
Right.
That was a guy that,
That's where you get your upside, because I think a lot of, especially
there's
NBA,
your tournament upside right there.
Cash game NBA these days, you're more or less putting a GPP lineup out there anyways.
True. A lot of us, including myself, learned that the hard way last year, where man, are cash games hard, and Rose is going to give you that upside. You look at that MVP season, 25 points per game, 4.1 boards, 7.1 assists, a steal, half a block. He was the man that season.
Guy got a shoe. He's got a shoe. What else needs to be said?
He did get a shoe from that season as the youngest MVP in NBA history.
Bukes, who you like? I know you've been chomping at the bit to talk some Chicago Bulls stats.
Basketball is my specialty. Guy. Yeah, Bulls are my favorite. So very similar to Julian, Michael Jordan. To start, obviously, I don't know how you don't start without him here. And then Scottie Pippen, of course. But where we mix up a little bit is Dennis Rodman. Obviously, the rebound upside.
Are you going to actually take the stack that I just suggested for you before the show?
Yep.
With a coach? That was a joke.
You know what? But you got to have somebody who's going to get through these guys, get to them here.
The Zen Master.
But I like Dennis Rodman because he's also an honorary member of the NWO. Okay? We can't forget that. That was huge. Him and Hulk Hogan, too sweet and everything. And, I think Phil Jackson can run it with him. You got to have somebody control those guys.
I think he's, in practice, he probably, strapped on the rec specs and got after it a little bit.
All right. You've selected the 96, 97, 98 three-peat Bulls.
I mean, why not?
That's
one
of my favorite classic teams. Grew up with them.
He wants the consistency. He wants the high floor cash game play there. Doesn't care as much about ownership.
Consistent, but
he's part of the NWO.
All right, so real quick here. Obviously, my two guard, Michael Jordan, forward, Scottie Pippen. Nothing too differentiating there. Center, though, I did go with Joakim Noah. He leads the team in history in offensive rebounds. I think especially, however we're going to play this out in your head, if he is actually out there with Jordan and Pippen, probably even a little bit more dynamic there. Mm-hmm. Not going to maybe, get you in as much trouble as Rodman is. Still a pretty interesting looking guy.
Part of the NWO.
And anyone who shoots two-handed, how can you not have them? Flex, a lot of discussion here on flex. Benny the Bull. I was thinking maybe their intro, like they probably have one of the best intros in the NBA. Mm-hmm. United Center, everything like that. I did end up going with Rose
over Benny the Bull and the team intro. You selected an actual MVP
my
optimizer.
My optimizer. A couple different rounds, a couple different guys. But in the end, I did go with Derrick Rose. So, it was random that we started with the Bulls. I kind of like it, though. It was very straightforward. Gives us a little good flow here. Like I said, though, Wednesday we'll be coming with something a little bit more fun. Leave some comments. Let us know, what you want there. Let us know who was in your Bulls stack. If you left anyone out, Artis Gilmore.
Great fro, too.
Ownership coming in pretty low there.
Yeah, nobody knows him. 25-15 guy. Bukes has no idea who I'm talking about.
No, I have no idea.
All right.
I appreciate it, though.
Do we know what Wednesday is going to be to tease, or are we still deciding?
You got anything? I was going to do the Julian Edlow starter pack, and I'll let you guys in on what my stack was going to be for that. Andrew Kashner, must.
Hell yes.
He's a lock. The Miami Marlins.
Oh, boy.
A parlay that includes only heavy favorites. And bagels.
Bagel boss.
So
Speaking of parlays that include only heavy favorites,
There we go.
we got one riding that's still going.
My starter pack is great
a
transitions.
three-day money line parlay. Ohio State.
this one's kind of cool.
Ohio State, easy win over Indiana. Dallas Cowboys money line, easy win over Washington. And tonight we have the Cleveland Browns money line. So rather than a Browns team that is minus 6.5 now against the Jets, we're just riding out Browns money line for plus 125.
I forgot about that. I was going to ask you if you're still in the hunt, and you are.
My 3-day parlay. Nothing like a 3-day sweat.
Or it could have.
It's like golf. It's like a PGA tournament.
Like I can't.
you stink.
I can't handle like an afternoon NFL sweat. I can't imagine 3 days. I can't do it.
I don't. It's 3 days of. Well, I'm already sweating college football and NFL.
Oh, no.
So it's like when that's all over, it's like, oh yeah, I still have my parlay going.
And I don't know really how sweaty you're getting if what you're sweating is Trevor Siemian against the Cleveland Browns.
We'll see. I'm not gonna write anything off, but I feel very good. I feel strong enough that I don't need to hedge on the Jets money line because you always could. They're at plus 225.
Well,
No. Come on.
the critics give Panel B's transitions 2 thumbs up, and another instant classic right here because guess what we're going to talk about?
Monday Night Football.
Woo.
Let's do
Boom.
it.
It's like we're
Anyone like the
professionals.
Jets?
Nah.
No.
All in on Lev Bell. Captain spot?
I mean, I feel like you have to, right? Because how many times are you going to
No,
get
you
fed?
don't. The
Well,
guy's shoulder,
well-
he could take one hit and then be like, nah, I'm done.
Yeah, but that could be. You can say that about anybody.
Had the MRI.
I mean, Donald high-fived Drew Brees, and now he's out for 6 weeks. You know?
That's one way to describe that.
Well, that's pretty much what it was. Though. When you watch the replays, it looks like he gives him a high five.
just
and ends up like
friends.
tearing
Besides the
ligament
torn ligaments in his
thumb,
throwing
right.
thumb.
It was a hard high five. No, I don't mind Bell in a captain's position. I mean, he's probably going to get handed off the ball at least 15 to 20 times, at least, you think. And obviously, he's still involved in the passing game as well. I mean, if he can get through that offensive line to actually get some production, that's another thing. But I don't see why Brown can't be. Because the only thing with the Browns is kind of like with the who was I just thinking of? Oh, the Chiefs. They can just spread it around so much. Like, there's not like a de facto number one. Like, it should be Odell Beckham, but we still haven't seen it yet because we've only seen one game from them so far. So I feel like that's not a team that you can lock down a number one receiver with Baker Mayfield.
I mean, if you want to go off the grid a little bit and play the Lev Bell will tap out card, Ty Montgomery is $1,600.
In the captain spot?
Sorry. No, I'm not going to captain him. I'm not
Oh.
going to
Well,
captain
that's
a
what
guy
we're
based
talking
on
about.
maybe the guy in front of him getting injured.
Well, then
But-
you're not trying to win a GPP, son.
True.
No, but if
Okay,
I'm doing
so
that, I'm
whatever.
going the other way. I'm going Elijah McGuire because there's the revenge narrative.
Oh, he just got signed.
signed.
Just got signed this
did
morning.
spend the offseason with the Browns as well. But let's back up a little bit before we go with our dart throws. The game script seems to be everyone's starting to lean toward the Browns are going to be pissed off from laying the egg. This is the best opportunity, like best possible matchup here going up against a backup. They're going to come out and show the Browns that we expect. Are we more or less in line with that's going to be the case? Browns winning big?
I'm not sold yet, really.
I don't know
Like,
if
I
it's
don't-
going to be a blowout, but I don't see the Jets having enough to scrape this one out. Like, the Browns would have to be more awful in week 2 with an extra day to prepare than they were in week 1.
And I agree with that, but like with the Browns being 265 on the money line, like would you feel great about that? Like that just seems.
Well, thanks to my parlay, I don't need to feel great about that because I already have them locked in.
But this isn't the All About Julian podcast. This is actually podcast.
I
to
care
help-
about my money, Bukes.
selfish.
I know I wouldn't play either team on the money line
Yeah.
in this game,
Right.
and I wouldn't play the 6.5 spread.
Right.
To bet to pick a side on this game, I would see what comes up on the live lines. Honestly,
I'm honestly surprised it's as close as it is because obviously I know Trevor Siemian kind of threw a wrench into all that, but it's like I didn't see enough from the Browns to have him almost touchdown favored in this spot over a touchdown.
yeah, it's projecting, and it's
Yeah.
it's the public perception of how bad the Jets should be, and projecting what the Browns bounce back should be.
Yeah.
Because there's so many unknowns in this game.
Right.
I will say, if you can afford to captain OBJ, or maybe just look at some player props on him, he takes things personally, and he's extremely talented. and he's in the building, although he's not playing the Giants, I'm sure he can come up with a way to feel that he is in the building that traded him away.
Well, he's going up against Greg Williams too. That's
That
is that's very true. That is very true.
Monday night, like OBJ is always looking for the primetime spots. I just feel like there's no way he doesn't come out of this one catching a bomb for a touchdown.
My dart throw.
Here it comes.
Jamison Crowder. Guy got 17 targets last week.
And Simeon is the type of system QB that's going to look for that slot.
It just seemed like they weren't using. He was used in the role that I think a lot of people thought Ty Montgomery was going to be in, where it's third and short. Who's running the option route out of the slot? I mean, we know Jamison Crowder, if that's kind of all that he can do, but I think the thought was going to be that's going to be Ty Montgomery, but it was Crowder. He was looked to a lot, so.
Keep in mind,
he's
not a quarterback who's going to push the ball down the field.
Seventh most expensive player on the slate at $8K too.
Well, he just caught 14 balls.
I know,
15
touches.
Get the
less than 100 yards.
He missed that 100-yard bonus by a yard, which
what a dope.
hurt if you rostered him. But he did get a rushing attempt too for 4 yards, so he did go over 100 yards. He didn't get the bonus, but he got 15 touches.
Oh, I'll put that rush in my projections. That might bump him up a half point.
Counts as a touch.
What a dope though! Can't even get 100 yards. Get out of here with that.
What a dope, you professional athlete.
Which works right into Trevor Simeon's hand.
You're right. You're right.
I feel like you guys are selling me more on it now, you know? I mean, I just
I like him. I like him. The only problem is he might be a little too expensive.
It's actually tough because for this game, like I'm looking through it and I'm like, there's not a ton of people that I'm like, I love. Like it feels like a tough game.
You mean a game between the Browns and the Jets?
But at least, you know, with all the offensive talent that the Browns have, like there's nobody that like is like a lock in this game, you know what I mean? Like for the Jets' inability on defense, they're not pushovers, I guess. I'm looking to say.
Well, we'll see what happens with C.J. Mosley. You know, if he plays, or sorry, he's already been ruled out. Actually, that is correct. So I think that does open it up, and I mean, we saw that's highly attributable to the Bills' comeback there in Week 1. Attributable. That one. I thought I saved it. There was just about a 2-second.
Just took some time.
You know, I mean, that was a big reason why. That's just easier to say. Big reason why the Bills came back there. Once he left that game, they were able to run a lot more. So yeah, Nick Chubb, David Njoku, potential options as well. On the diamond, anything catching our eye?
Oh God, that's still going on.
We still got baseball. We got, you know, I will say, for my MLB hit that was earlier today in Buke's cheat sheet that came out, we're in lockstep on a lot of things on tonight's slate, which is trouble.
Well,
we both like Dakota Hudson.
Before MLB best stacks get submitted, I'll have to check that out, make sure that I have nothing in common with you guys, and take the other side. Well,
the Mets are at Coors Field in facing Antonio Senzatello, which is always
good night.
Great. However, his last start looks pretty good. You got the Mets traveling overnight.
No. Don't fall for that. 4 of his last 5 starts have been in the negative.
Right.
He accidentally had a good game in his last start. That's pretty much how I look at it. But he's so bad against lefties.
Right.
And now we got Conforto, Julian's favorite player, Robinson Cano. Like, there's some good plays over there, too. It's a weird slate, too. It starts at 7:40 Eastern time. I've never seen a slate start at 7:40 unless it was like one game and then the rest. But nope, just flat out 7:40. But that's not really that important. Dakota Hudson seems like he's in a good spot. He's obviously somebody who struggles against left-handed bats. Nationals don't have much. Pretty much Adam Eaton, Juan Soto, and Matt Adams, who doesn't even count because I don't think he's had an extra base hit since April. So I'm not really worried about Matt Adams. Really, just 2 bats you have to worry about with Eaton and Soto. So 8,100 for Hudson seems like an appealing spot, especially since he's about the 8th most expensive pitcher on this slate.
Do you think he can beat Strasburg? Because St. Louis is plus 133 on the money line.
Okay, this is a DFS segment. This is not a betting segment. So if you paid attention,
it's a baseball segment.
Okay, but you can like Hudson in DFS, but like the Nationals in
you can. You can.
Right,
I asked
so that's
you a
why
question.
I'm talking about Dakota Hudson.
All I asked you is if you like.
Too early for you? You cranky?
All I asked you is if you like them to win.
I don't like them to win.
Okay.
I like the Nationals to win. But Hudson can easily go out and throw 6 solid innings.
I didn't say he couldn't. I just asked a question.
Okay, so yeah, Nationals to win. Dakota Hudson to do well.
Just ask one question. Are Bonita Fish big?
How about this?
Who is this guy?
You can bet the Cardinals through the first 5.
Sure. That's a good way to approach
All right,
things like this.
there we go. What else you got?
Well, you know what?
No.
I'll disagree with Bukes here because Washington has a bottom 2 bullpen in baseball and St. Louis has a top 2 bullpen in baseball. So if you think Dakota Hudson's going to outpitch Strasburg through the first 5 innings, I'll take St. Louis's bullpen to close it out at plus money than that garbage Washington bullpen.
Fine.
There you go. I have a baseball
This will be
take.
totally flipped when we do the college football segment on
please,
Wednesday.
No.
Sorry.
Don't do that. Nobody wants to hear that.
I already have a play that I love just brewing up already for
Bruin.
nice,
He's
nice
on
Friday,
the UCLA Bruin.
nice Friday night play.
I checked our viewer, like what happens when certain segments, a lot of spikes. Yours was like an absolute disaster.
From 3 to 1, man.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
how will we recover?
So we really got to stop doing that into the microphone. He's slurping an empty drink in the microphone.
We are nothing if not professional here on the Panel B podcast.
Do you want to talk about
Got
your
to work
stupid
that
play?
our way up to that next letter.
No, the college football soliloquy is on Wednesday's show.
Great. Can't wait. I'll
He's,
be sick.
he edited it into the Slack schedule. Reminder, though, of course, that odds and lines are subject to change. Please see website for actual odds. Or if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and would like help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. That is going to do it for the Panel B podcast. I am shutting them off. Mics are off.
Hello.
They are not actually off. You just have to listen to me. For Julian Edlow, for Steve Buchanan, I'm Alex Jankowski. We will see you next time